Underway right now, jury selection in the Ahmaud Arbery murder trial. Arbery is the 25-year-old black man who was chased down and shot to death while jogging in a neighborhood near Brunswick, Georgia. You may remember this happened months before the killing of George Floyd, and it has been part of the broader discussion and protests focused on racial justice. 3 white men are charged with Arbery's killing. Gregory McMichael, his son Travis McMichael, and their neighbor William Bryan. All 3 have pleaded not guilty to charges of malice and felony murder, along with other charges. Now, this case lingered for months before anyone was arrested. That didn't happen until video of the deadly encounter surfaced. So the killing happened in February. The video surfaced in May, and it was after that when people were arrested. CNN's Martin Savage has been following this from the beginning. What do we know about jury selection and how long this is expected to take, Martin?
Well, Anna, it's very complicated. And that video plays into it because, as you remember the case of Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd, there was video that showed how George Floyd died. There is video. We know how Ahmaud Arbery died. The question is, what were the circumstances around that death? And the people who will make the final decision on that is the jury, and that's why jury selection is so critical. About 1,000 jury summons were sent out in Glenn County. It's not a big county, so about 1 in every 85 people received one of those summons, the first 600 people showing up today. And that process is made more complicated by the fact that you have 3 defendants, and each one of those defendants has 2 attorneys, and on top of that you have the prosecution and the judge that will all weigh into the overall makeup of what this jury will look like. And there are concerns. Wanda Cooper-Jones, who is Ahmaud Arbery's mother, has concerns about the jury, and she also talks about that video.
I think without that video we wouldn't have an arrest, but I thank God that the video came and we got arrested, and now we're here to select the jury to finally get justice for Ahmaud. I have my concerns, being that the jurors will be picked from this community. There has been lots of miscommunications in the beginning on what happened on that day, but I'm hopefully that we'll get the right people in the right place to make the right decision.
And doing that process, at least selecting that jury, could take at least 2 weeks. Some suggest maybe 2.5 weeks. Anna?
Martin Savage, thank you. Let's get some perspective now on this case from CNN legal analyst and civil rights attorney Areva Martin. Areva, both the defense and Arbery's family are expressing concern about whether a fair and impartial jury can be seated in this community. What do you think?
I think it's going to be complicated, Anna. We know in these high-profile cases it's very difficult to find people that haven't heard about the case, haven't read about the case, haven't seen the extensive media. But this case is even more complicated than the typical high-profile case because not only do we have this disturbing video of the actual shooting of Ahmaud Arbery, we also have the prosecution of the original district attorney. We have that district attorney who played favoritism towards one of the defendants who had actually worked, Gregory McMichael, who had actually worked in her office. That delayed the actual indictment of these 3 defendants. And it wasn't, as you said in the opening, until there was this huge public outcry and the release of that videotape that we actually saw any kind of action taken with respect to those defendants. So I think all of those issues are going to come into play as both sides try to pick impartial jurors.
You point out the prosecution has changed hands multiple times. I think they're on the 4th prosecutor. And in fact, it was the original district attorney, Jackie Johnson, who was indicted for her handling of this case. One of the defendants, Gregory McMichael, previously worked in her office, and she allegedly directed police officers not to arrest him and is accused of violating her oath of district attorney by, quote, showing favor and affection to Greg McMichael during the investigation into the shooting death of Ahmaud Arbery. Johnson has denied any wrongdoing, but specifically that aspect, how do you see that playing into this trial?
Well, I imagine that those jurors, and we already know that this is a very small community, 1 in 85 people have gotten a jury summons. So we know that whole community not only knows about Ahmaud Arbery's death, his murder, but they also know about the indictment of this prosecutor. And for some, that will send a message that this was a case where a crime was committed and the state, the prosecutor, were trying to cover up that crime. For others, we don't know, because this is a community also that has had some racial tension. We know one of the motions that has been filed by the defendant is an effort to keep out the license plate of the defendants because it has a Confederate flag on it. We are also hearing reports that questions about Black Lives Matter and support or opposition to Black Lives Matter is going to come into the voir dire process. So race is going to be a big issue in this case, Anna. And remember, there have been federal hate crimes charged against these 3 defendants. So this case has a lot of similarities to Trayvon Martin, what we saw with respect to George Zimmerman, how long it took for George Zimmerman to be charged, and how racially charged that case was. So I think we have to look very carefully and see how the whole race issue gets played out in the jury selection process.
We'll be watching, and we will be calling on you to be a great resource for us throughout. Thank you so much, Areva Martin.